Welcome, everyone. I am Felice Levine, ARA Executive Director, and I am joined, or will be in a moment, by Robert Smith, our Director of Meetings. And we are really excited about this workshop and demonstration. It is one thing to have as many orientations as we've had, and that are recordings on the website, ARA website, and the fact sheets that we are already offering on the website, and that we've had, I think, 3 sessions focused on the ARA interactive presentation gallery and how you can make an interactive iPresentation. And it's one thing to have those who have lived and walked in that experience, the developers of the product and what it's going to offer to those of you who choose to do it for this annual meeting and in the future. But it's another to be able to have a colleague among us who indeed took up the option in 2020 I suppose it was October, November, when we invited doing a kind of a preview of creating an iPresentation. And Laurie Santa Maria, who will be doing the demonstration today, did too. And we were talking a couple of Friday evenings ago, because she also is one of those selfless among our colleagues who did one of our fall professional development courses in September. And we were talking about her experiences with iPresentation and came to the idea, why not bake this cake together? Let's have an opportunity for those who've been invited, and that's over 6,000 of you who are giving papers at the ARA annual meeting, our virtual annual meeting, and many of you are already signed into the creation, or what I call the studio space. But kind of let's do it together. Indeed, in one of the emails that went out, she said, if you want to play along with the process, get everything ready. And some of you might be aiming to do it right now. But this session is really all about that. And Robert and I are really the support team to make sure that those of you who are already involved in doing it, thinking about it, have questions to ask, really have an opportunity to have one of our colleagues show how it's done and why she's selected to do that. So with that brief overview, let me just turn it over to Robert, and then kind of Laurie, take it away, and we will seclude our cameras and open up this opportunity. I want to emphasize that we encourage you to use the Q&A. The chat space is less accessible, we have learned, and inclusive than we had anticipated or expected or assumed for over this past year. So if you have general comments, you can also put them in Q&A, because there are already well over, I think it's about 450 of you. We can't have everyone speak at once, but we're going to try to simulate that in your words and have lots of opportunity for Q&A. The live closed captioning is at the bottom of the Zoom. So for those of you who want to read the words, Lauren will be doing the live closed captioning, and Monica already has joined us for the ASL interpretation, and she will be joined in roughly 20-minute intervals by Cindy. And with that, I welcome, for all he has been just heroically doing for many, many months, Robert Smith, our Director of Meetings.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Felice. Thank you for joining us. We're very pleased that you're here. We're starting something, we're continuing something that we started in the fall, and we'll continue in moving in years forward. So thank you very much. And be sure to register for the annual meeting, which starts in just a little bit over a week. And we're excited that get a chance to join together. With that, I'll turn it over to Laurie.
Robert, and thank you so much, Felice, for the opportunity to work with colleagues in a workshop situation, working with peers. This is really exciting. So thanks very much for everyone for joining me today for this live demo. Laurie Santa Maria. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and ella. I'm of the Walker, Callahan, Harris, Johnson, Black, African American, Louisiana Creoles peoples of Choctaw descent. My parents hail from Baton Rouge and Morgan City, Louisiana. However, I was born in Spain and lived there for 8 years. And as such, I'm a bilingual Spanish-English speaker. I'm first gen graduate and happy to be here to share my work with you all during this time of hope and promise after everything that we've been through in terms of our shared trauma, public health crises, repeated, sometimes lethal racial injustices. So to be here representing is super exciting for me. But before we get into it, I would be remiss as a Black and Indigenous person of color woman if I did not acknowledge and invite each one of you to take just a little bit of moment, an intentional time to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples and the land from which you all are participating today. And in that spirit, I am acknowledging the Chumash people of the land of Ventura County here on the central coast of California, where I'm working from. And I want to invite you to take a moment to acknowledge yourselves and your people in your land where you're working from. And so, as Felice shared earlier, if you want to just take a moment and bombard, I'm just kidding, use the question answer just to pop in your name and the land that you're acknowledging or the land that you're working from today. I think that would be a way to build what we say in the Mixteco Indigena community where I work, building conocimiento, or building a little micro community before we get into this workshop. So I would love it if you could do that, just your name and like who you're representing, who you're from, who your people are, you know, just taking a second just to acknowledge, soaking in the wisdom here. Yeah. I love it. I love seeing people that I know too. Hi, Joyce. I love seeing all of these faces and names and places and just feeling it, you know. It's great to be here. Thanks again for the opportunity. Yeah, just acknowledge each other, acknowledge the community that we have here at AERA, so many years, right? As you continue to write, I want to welcome you to my home office and in a little bit to my desktop. This is my 22nd year participating in AERA, first as a doc student at the University of Arizona, then as a faculty member at Cal State San Marcos, and then as a faculty member at the University of Auckland. And now I'm working at an Indigenous serving nonprofit as a PI and a director. So, all right. So as you continue to add this in here, I love it. It's beautiful. Keep it going. Keep the love flowing. You may have seen some of the work by the research team that I led, that I demoed by Isaac during the first iPresentation in early March, and that work's still available, and I'm going to be referencing it today. So I wanted my caveat and to all of this is I am not a tech person. I'm not an ed tech person. I'm not an expert. I'm using a Mac. So if you're not a Mac person, bear with me. I'm just like you. So let's try to not take ourselves too seriously, try to have some fun as we go. So if you have some of your information ready, I did share that it would be good if you have your paper handy, if you want to minimize the screen and listen and play around and watch. I also created a PDF that has a step-by-step if you're a linear and you need to see visually, and it also has some screenshots. So I'm trying to make this as accessible as possible and to make it just as real as we can. So if you have your papers ready, some photos ready, if you have any videos that you want to use, it's good if you're using YouTube videos. I'm even going to demo some voice recording. And if you have a PowerPoint, I mean, how we used to do things. If you have a PowerPoint, I will even show you how to use that. So let's get started. Take a really deep breath for me. Woo! All right. Now, as we move forward, I'm going to get my screen sharing going in just a minute. Keep in mind that what we're doing is something that you want to have available when you're doing your presentation, your AERA paper presentation. So it's going to be something that when in the past we used to have our PowerPoints going, or a poster or a chart. And now we're actually going to have this presentation that's holding space. So that's one thing. But then the other thing about this presentation is that it will remain after you're gone. And so there are features on the poster that enable the poster to continue to communicate when you're not present. And those are some things that I will show you. And so I would say, ask yourself how the presentation platform is going to bring more energy and more opportunity to your the presentation of your work. I'm going to show you a lot of features from the most basic to probably some of the pretty fancy advanced ones, because they offer me more on how I want to present my research in Black, Indigenous, people of color spaces. It's like, we're innovators. I'm getting in there. We're going to do all the bells and whistles, but I'm also going to show you a very, very clear, basic how you get your PowerPoint into this iPresentation platform. And so the overarching idea is to have all the elements that you want to see present and accessible on an interactive poster presentation where the author isn't present. So if you think about it like that, if you can access the document that I've provided, the first thing that I'm going to share with you is what I call a sort of, we'll call it I want to call it like the central document. And I'm just scrolling up to the top of my central document for one of my papers. And in the central document, I have just written, and this is what I uploaded into the AERA. It's part of it is my proposal, part of it is the paper. This is for a symposium, so it's not a complete paper. It's just kind of like the notes. All of the written details that I want, that I might want to put on my poster, I have them here. The title, the abstract, all of the juicy details. And in between all of the actual narrative, I have placed some photos. The visuals, because remember, it's not like your poster, your presentation is just narrative. You want to have, it's good to have some visuals. And the visuals that I use are visuals from my research or from the context of the research. And I put them in this working document where I think I might want them to go in the poster that I'm going to make. So this is kind of like a prerequisite step. And this is what this one looks like for me, my pre-step, right? So I have another one for another paper, because I'm going to show you a couple, and it's the same idea. This one I think I did a little bit more completely because, excuse me, I wanted to make sure, because I know what the iPoster presentation looks like, so I have the title, and I have my name and my co-presenter's name and what my PowerPoint's going to contain, because I am going to have a PowerPoint, and then I go section by section with headings, right? With headings and the photo that I want to use all the way through. So this is the same thing that I would have done if I were making a PowerPoint presentation. And I know that all of us have our brains are all wired very differently. So it's going to depend on what you want your poster to look like, what you want it to contain. But I would say at the very bare minimum, even if you're just going to make a PowerPoint, you want to have these narrative elements and these beautiful visuals in order to complement or to tell the story, right? Because we're just telling the story right now of what your work is going to look like. So again, for mine, I pulled from my proposal paper the final version of what I uploaded into the AERA submission system, and then I chunked it out. I chunked it out into bigger sections. And the reason that I chunked it out was because I know that the iPresentation is limited. It only has a certain amount of blocks of information that I can present. And so I chunked it out in ways that made sense. Before I even go to the iPresentation, I want to make sure that I have a board to work from. Now, all of the photos that I'm using, I actually also take all of those photos and I make them into JPEG, JPG, or JPG, or my other one that I've been using is PNG. And those are just ways that you can save them. And my quick secret that I really like to do is I like to do screenshots, because a screenshot automatically turns into one of those files that's easy. Why am I talking about these pictures? I'll show you in just a moment. So we all have this working document, the same kind of document that you would have if you were making a PowerPoint, right? Right. So if you're following along with my handout, I also decided while I was doing all of this that there might be some parts that I want to read, because I have had experience with this, and I just want you to know that I don't want to have a whole bunch of narrative. There are parts that maybe I want to use my voice for, and it's another conversation that we can have a little bit later. But while I was doing this, I did notice that there's something that I thought maybe I want to record. And so I just recorded myself reading from my paper. And after I made that recording, I saved it in my downloads file again so that I could access it later. So you've got all this, we've got this working document, and now we can go over to the iPresentation. And in the iPresentation, I would like to, I think the first thing I want to show you is that beginning with the end in mind, okay? Beginning with the end in mind. So I just showed you that working document. The working document becomes this. This is what the working document becomes. Those those chunks become the background rationale. The chunks become the different topics that I want the person who are the people or the colleagues or the students, the community who's learning about this poster. These are the things that I want as an overview. And I also wanted a PowerPoint presentation for this particular one. And so I chucked my PowerPoint into this area right here that's going all by itself. And I can show you about that. But remember, this is an all bells and whistles situation, this finished product. Yours doesn't have to look like that. It doesn't have to, but it can. And I will show you about how I can show you what that looks like. But I wanted to just take a moment to point out some of the elements. You can put video in there. You can put some of your stats, some findings. You can put your charts or all of that. And so if you've already done the presentation with Isaac from the very first, the kickoff opening, you will have seen this poster, but I just wanted to show it to you so we could have a end, beginning with the end in mind. And I just want to stop for a second right here before I add any more information to this workshop to see if there are any pertinent questions that I might be able to address that have come up.
Tony, are you seeing any key ones?
Yeah, they may be more directed to Robert and to you at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you folks would like clarification on how the iPresentation platform is to be used for posters versus paper presentations.
Well, let me just say briefly, in the live event, meaning when your session is scheduled. Now, I suppose envision. Let me put my camera on a minute. Envision if you were making a poster presentation, you would be in a room with many, many posters. Every person presenting their paper in a poster session mode you will essentially be in your own small space. There won't be a lot of other posters you're looking at or people you're looking at, but people will come in. When they come in, if you're more familiar with WebEx or Zoom, you will know exactly who's there. One person may come in and you can have your poster up in the same way that Laurie showed her finished product. You can have it up and they can in your share screen, and then you might say to that person, well, I can give you a little highlight on the nature of my work, or are you particularly interested in X or Y? If so you're essentially showing it in a way that you would if somebody walked over to a flat poster board. By this being a web-based product, it has more of that dynamic interaction as you're doing it live. Now, of course, you'll kind of calibrate what you're saying. Two more people come over to your poster, and you might then say, I'm currently answering this person's question, but I'd be happy to tell you a little bit more about my work. And I've put a PDF in chat, which you can do, which would be equivalent to what, or in Q&A on the platform, that would be equivalent to what Lori just did initially with us. So you have that flexibility and rhythm. I would say the hardest part of thinking about a virtual platform in a motif like a poster is that persons will come and join you at various points. And I suppose, as Lori so warmly did in her introduction, the most important part is to not have the fact that you're not place-based together be too much of an inhibitor, and say, we're kind of a small community here around this poster. Chances are over the hour you will have persons coming in at various times, and you will, be inclusive and yet respectful of the points that you may be making, and then you might start again. If there are a few people who would like you to, go through the highlight of your presentation, you can choose, and you will be choosing essentially from 9 options, from ones that are more complex to ones that are more simple.
Yeah.
While Laurie made reference to PowerPoint that you can insert, you don't have to have a PowerPoint step along the way. This has all the functionality of PowerPoint, and more so because it's a web-based product, so that you can pull in content in a way you can't on a flat poster if it were really a poster board, or even with a PowerPoint that's really one-dimensional. I hope that helps. We've added 2 Q&A open discussion fora around kind of time zones to, we hope, meet the needs of all of our colleagues. One is tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Savings Time, and the other is Thursday at 3:30, if I'm remembering the times. And any kinds of questions you have about modes of presentation, what's a roundtable really like? Why would I even show a poster at a roundtable when a roundtable is an opportunity for a discussion? That is true. Sometimes we know people have a handout. Sometimes we know people show something on an iPad. And all we're saying is, even in a roundtable discussion, you can share screen on something salient. Let's say if Lori were in a roundtable, she might want to show that little video clip of the interview in order to make a point she's making in the discussion. So it then just becomes a tool, not a replacement for what the motif is trying to do to really have for an engaged meeting.
Yeah, and to be honest, this was a roundtable. This was a roundtable presentation. That was what it was accepted as. But I'm really into innovation. So I was like, look, there's a bell. Look, there's a whistle. I wonder how that works. So I went ahead and I tried every single feature that I could in the time that I had last year. And that's how this poster was born. And I think, just to add on to what you were saying, Felice, you could use the poster for any of the AERA presentation spaces, whether it's a paper, whether it's a roundtable, whether it's a poster session or a symposia. It doesn't really matter. I mean, when you're looking at it, you don't know that that's a roundtable presentation. You don't know that that's a roundtable paper. it doesn't say anywhere. I think this is an interesting thing. It's kind of transcends those different, iPresentation sort of transcends those labels that we have within AERA. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those labels. They're wonderful. They're great because they dictate the kind of paper that we're writing. But in terms of the presentation of the findings and the data and the research, it's sort of you decide. And I think now's a really good time for me to go ahead and show you from the beginning. So from scratch, this is the end, beginning with the end in mind. And so beginning with the beginning in mind, everyone will have, excuse me while I go swimming here, everyone will have received, this is a midpoint, but let's go to the very beginning. Everyone will have received an invitation and their email for all of the papers that you have proposed or for AERA, right? And when you go to your invitation, you're going to open it up and you're going to land on something that looks like this. And this is the iPoster template. And the reason that I asked you to look at your kind of leading guiding document to see, chunk it out and to see what elements you want, because that could potentially dictate whether you want to have 4 content boxes stacked, 4 content boxes vertical. This is what your poster is going to look like. 5 boxes or 6 content boxes. This is what I did. 6 content boxes with 1 slideshow function. That's why the slides were rotating out. It has to say slideshow function for that to happen. Or I could have done 7 content boxes with slideshow function. These guys don't have slideshow function, so there's not going to be that awesome feature. There is the 1 content box. This is where we're going to start. This is where the PowerPoint, your PowerPoints can just, if you're feeling like, you know what, Lori, that's great. You know, good for you. Yeah. I just want to do a PowerPoint presentation. If that's you, I know some of my colleagues really well. I'm going to show you how we do that. But if you want more, it's there. It's all there for you. You can choose, you can decide what your poster is going to look like. And so let's pretend we're at the very beginning for this poster. You saw my master sort of my document where all of the information was written. And so it's good to have that handy. And I'm going to choose this 1 content box. I could have chosen any of those, but I'm choosing the 1. And there it is. It's telling me, oh, here's your paper. And the reason that I had you, it's going to be loaded with your title, and it's going to have some information in it. I might even have an abstract. Does it? Yeah, abstract is loaded. And now you start to build. So it's a clean slate. Tabla rasa. You put in what you need to put in. So I'm just going to take a moment and just put in. You can also cut and paste this. So super simple to do this. Christina is my sister-in-law. Anybody was wondering. So there's us, and we're doing this one together. I'm just gonna write me cop instead of the whole thing right now. The Mixteco Indígena Community Organizing Project. And I'm going to just hold that space. Now, in order for me to put some of those awesome pictures in that I want to put in, I'm going to show you how you build your image gallery. But maybe you don't. Maybe, like I said, you just have that PowerPoint and you're like, you know what, just land the plane. Give me my PowerPoint. Okay, that's fine. We can do that. But you still have to upload your PowerPoint into the image gallery before you use it. So that's why after we do this step, a good thing to do is to do your image gallery. But some of you might be like me too. You might be going, well, there's something incomplete. There's an upload logo over there. Well, we're going to do that first so that we can complete the top line. And the way that we do that is I already have some images in the image gallery. So don't get nervous. You're going to have some too. So I'm going to go to my image gallery, and I am Mixteco Indígena Community Organizing Project right now. And there's my image. Hopefully it's going to load for you. There it is. There's my image for the Mixteco Indígena Community Organizing Project. But I'm also working with Christina at IUPUI. So I'm going to get her logo in there too. And like I said, I already have my gallery, and I'm going to show you how to make your gallery. I'm just looking for the IUPUI's logo. You're going to have a lot of stuff in your gallery like I do eventually. IUPUI, there it is. And I'm going to put that one in there. And I also, my research is funded by the Ventura County Behavior Health Organization. And whenever I present, oh, sorry, wrong presentation. If your research was funded by somebody else or something, if you want to put another, maybe I want to put my alma mater, maybe I want to put the U of A up there. So maybe it's research that I conducted when I was at the University of Auckland. Whatever logos are affiliated with your work, you can put it right over there. And there's another section there that looks like it needs some photos of us in there, and the upload author photo, same thing. I have photos of myself and of Christina. I'm going to put them in there. There's me, the one that I'm using right now. Put that in there. And nice. Find one of Christina Santa Maria. Where are you? Oh, there's a picture of her somewhere in here that we're going to use. So I think you get the idea. I could have put one of both of us together because there are pictures of both of us together for the work that we do, but there's one. We'll use that one for Christina. And now you're starting to build this thing, right? So how do we put pictures into the image gallery? So the reason why I asked you to save things in JPEG or in PNG is because you need to grab your pictures from your desktop or from your downloads or from your Dropbox or wherever you're keeping them. So we're going to load a picture. I'm just going to pick this one. This is me and Jenny Lee and some friends. And this is a JPEG right there. Do you see these things? If you don't speak computer like I don't speak computer, just look for the JPEG and then you'll know. So I'm loading it in there, and it loaded upside down. I don't like that it loaded upside down. So I'm not going to futz around with the technology of why that loaded upside down, but I want to find something to load that's right side up. And it's good. I get to show another one. So let's just do this one. Hello. Hopefully that loads right side up. And it has a question mark. I bet I know why, because it was not a JPEG. This is a great demonstration. That was not a JPEG. That was not. It has to be a JPEG or it has to be a PNG. It says that it was, but it didn't load. I would say just it's a really true demonstration. Just keep loading. There's an image. That's the Rio Guadalquivir in Spain, where I was born. Load your images, and when they're loaded, then you'll be able to access them into your thing. But the question is, how do I get a PowerPoint in there? And so the answer is coming to you right now. I have my PowerPoint that I created already for this talk, and it's right here. And the PowerPoint is not done because we're working on these things, right? But the PowerPoint, we're going to pretend that it's done. In order to upload it into your iPresentation to make it do that, like that sort of flow, changing slides on its own, it has to be saved in a JPEG as well. So my PowerPoint, I'm saving it as, well, it's already saved as what it is saved as PowerPoint, but I want to save it now. I want to export it. That's how we do it in Mac. I'm gonna, well, it says PDF. I think that's the PDF is what I want. I believe it's PDF. It might be a JPEG that I really want. I hope that I'm correct right now. I'm doing this in front of you all. You're bearing with me. So I've saved it. So I'm going to go back to the presentation, and I'm going to see if I can upload it in the image gallery. Okay. Saved it. Where did you go? There it is. JPEG. Hi. Thank you for cooperating. So there goes It's supposed to upload the whole thing. It looks like it just uploaded one slide. I don't think it did all of the slides that I wanted it to. So let me see if I go into the actual image slider, upload image, but you see it is there. So I'm uploading that image. You might have to do them one at a time. Where did it go? Uploading my image, gallery. There it is. There's the one. So what I'm telling you is that when you're making a PowerPoint, you have to load your images one at a time. I didn't mean to do it twice. I just meant to do it once. But each one of your panels on your PowerPoint, like I showed you here, you load them one image at a time in order to make it rotate. Does that make sense? I don't want to go into a long tech talk. I just want you to know how you load your PowerPoint. You don't just slide your whole PowerPoint in there and land it. You put them in one image at a time. Alternatively, what you could do is you could actually put your whole PowerPoint in without the scrolling business, and you could just have a chunk of PowerPoint kind of just look like a PDF sheet of paper, and it won't have that really awesome effect where we're rolling. Does that make sense? See it? Did you see it go? It just went by itself. So if there were more images, it would just go ahead and go. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope it does. That is the easiest way to do the iPresentation with the PowerPoint, either scrolling or just a PDF piece of paper that's just there. And I believe, and Felice, you can help me out if I'm wrong here. I believe that's the goal, is we want everyone to load all of their papers at least in this way as a bare minimum. Is that correct?
Well, we encourage it because of the real asset of both working with something that's a web-based product that will be in the gallery where people can contact each other and learn about work. So it's a great way of sharing your work and networking at the early versioning stage.
Yeah.
You can, as Laurie and I think both emphasized, there is actually no functionality in PowerPoint that really requires that be a step along the way. I suppose there's comfort level with that, but any of these opportunities for template have all the same capacities of having bullets, having more capacity, picture, video, audio, the kinds of things that on a PowerPoint you would need to go out to a website. This is a web-based product in itself that is being essentially offered for each user, and then the added advantage is then being part of the gallery so that others can contact you, see your work in an accessible way at their own speed. They can go back, they can go forward, they can ask to have a video chat with you or ask you questions. They can. So we think it's a wonderful asset, and so we encourage its use. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So so now maybe you go, that's cool. I'm feeling it. This is good. I like this. Maybe you can show me something a little fancier. Maybe. So when you're doing this, you can switch templates. All you have to do is go back to none of your photos, none of your images ever leave once you put them in that gallery. But you can start again. And again, I'm going to show you that in a moment. Back to that was kind of a good thing to show you. If you have more than one paper, you're going to have toggle options. And I know some of you have more than one paper. So this is the one that I'm working on, but I have another paper that I'm also working on. And you can be in the middle of this. You can add one of the really awesome features that Felice and I were talking, and Robert and I were talking about earlier, is that you can go back, you can work on this. You can decide, I want to do 3 content boxes. Maybe I got 3 chunks I want to do. So chunk it in, it goes in there. And you go back in and you fill out all of the stuff that you did before. Unfortunately, it doesn't just takes a moment. You saw how I did that. And you decide that you want to put in your data, or let's see, you're going to do your intro. actually, it's all from the paper. I'm going to show you that in a minute. But anyway, here's another way that you can do it. Let's do a little baby demo of that. So you can see how that paper works. Okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to go to that file, that Word document. And I'm going to decide to do, I like to start from the beginning. I'm going to do my objectives and my purpose. I'm just going to cut. Another chunk that I want to go ahead and pull from is I want to do some context. And just put that in there. And then I want to do my findings. I'm just doing this really quickly. So, all right, so I don't want to do that. Those are the pieces that I want to do. I want to add some content, but I like to start with a picture. How do I do that? She did all that. All those pictures are loaded in my beautiful image gallery. I want to put a picture in there. So we'll go to my image gallery and I'm going to choose something bright, something I like that one. Put that in there first. I'm going to say, okay, so there's my picture. And then I want to put some text after my picture. Actually, it's I see I have some, I want to make a space. I want to be aesthetically pleasing today. So go back to my Word doc. And I'm going to pull that text right there. Oh, let's go in the study. Yeah, okay, second. Finally, okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to copy that one. And boom, there's that. Make it look good. You know what? I want to say something. I want to add some narration. Now, this narration that I'm adding is something that I have already recorded. And if you want me to model how to record the narration, I'm very happy to do that as well. So we're going to get some narration in here. Theoretical framing. Thought I had something for this. You see all these little notes? This is my narration. This isn't the exact file that I'm going to use. This is just a demonstration, but there it is. And now I have a bit of narration in there. So I've got a photo, I've got some text, and I have a little narration that I'm trying to play for you. Hello. In a perfect world, you would hear this narration. It doesn't want to play right now, but there is narration. And then maybe I would want to put another photo or something like that. And that's how you build it. This is how you build the whole thing. So this is how it goes. And I could, if I wanted to start again, I could start again with a different template, depending on how many panels I want to show. And I can do all kinds of really wonderful and cool things with this. Now I want to go to one that I have that is more in progress, but I want to make sure before I do that, I answer any questions about starting from scratch and at the very, very beginning. And when I do the next one, we're going to go over all of these other different elements that you can add to the presentation. But I want to go more, stay here in a little more basic space before we move on. Are there questions about where we are right now?
So Lori, a few people have asked if once they start a template and then change their mind, can they save their information and create a new template with it?
No, when you change your mind after you've started the first template, when you change to another one, everything that's written goes away. That's why you need that. Please hear me. You need that document. You need that Word document with everything written on it. That is your rock. You're going to need that because it allows you the flexibility of actually starting again. When I hit delete, which I'm going to do right again to show you, everything's going to be gone except for your photos. The only thing that stays are going to be your image gallery. So again, a good idea is to build up your image gallery, make it strong. You can see my PowerPoints that I have in the image gallery already because you have to put one frame at a time in there, but you want to build up your image gallery because when you erase everything here, it will stay. But when I delete, and it's okay, it's all going. It
But
can't,
you
it
can,
doesn't stay.
Lori, I think you can cut before you delete. You can cut and paste your text out.
Yeah,
And
you
you
can
can
cut and
stick
paste.
it in narration or in
Sure.
another location. And I think then delete.
No, you can't save it anywhere. You can save it onto another Word
Yes, you
document.
can, yeah, you could save it on another document.
Yeah, onto a Word document,
Yeah,
of
Word
course.
document.
Yeah,
That's right.
but I really, in this, I feel like there's like iPresentation hygiene, right? The really good hygienic practice is to have everything on a Word document so that you don't ever have to worry about something, losing something, and then, you know, wondering if you're ever going to see it again. Just have it all parked on a Word document and then decide how you want it to look. That would be my advice.
And that's no different than if you've chosen a slide deck in PowerPoint. It won't migrate over to a different form of layout. You have to essentially cut and paste it out and cut and paste it back in.
Exactly. So what I have here is an iPresentation in progress, in much more progress than the other one that I just showed you. And it is one for which I chose I chunked my paper out in context, rationale, and participants, and the lit review. I chunked it out with my theoretical framing. I chunked it out with my data collection and findings and my discussion and implications. This is how I chunked it out in my document that I'm going to be pulling from. And this is how the design is coming through. So again, you can understand, and I decided again that I wanted to have, here's a good piece you can see, I wanted to have that PowerPoint. I like the way that it looks now. I like it, it looks clean. And if I'm not ever present for my presentation, somebody can see it and they can get and understand what this research is about without my being there. So that's why I decided to do it this way. But you decide what you want to do. And once you decide what you want to do, based on your main Word document, it's not very difficult to add whatever it is that you want to add. So again, important, your title, your name, who you're working, you know, your institution, get your logos in there. This one I chose to put the University of Auckland, Ventura County Behavior Health, and Mixteco Indígena, where I work now, because some of the research that I'm talking about, I conducted it when I was at the University of Auckland, and then the other one is funded by Ventura County Behavior Health. There's my photo over there, but if I had multiple authors, I would add more. And then I went ahead and started adding the elements that we just talked about. One of the elements that you can also do is you can also put hyperlinks in. And when you put a hyperlink in, it's just like anything else. You have the link, you have your hyperlink, you put it in there so that if someone's visiting your poster and you're not present, they can learn more about the different organizations or whatever it is that you're featuring there. I decided that I wanted to model putting in another photo in for you. I want a photo of the marae door in New Zealand. So I'm going to go to my gallery and I'm going to look in my images that I already have for the marae door that I put in. My marae door is right here. I'm going to check it and then I'm going to hit OK. And my image for my marae door is there. So you see, it's good to plan out what you want. And I want a door from Oaxaca here. So I'm going to go to my image and I'm going to pick my door from Oaxaca. which is, so you kind of, as you play with it, you kind of will know where your stuff is, where you put your things. Where's my door from Oaxaca? I know it's in here somewhere. So I hope that you're getting a kind of a feel for this. It's really not that difficult. It is something that here's my Oaxaca doorway. You just kind of want to decide how you want to present yourself, how you want your work to look. So for my participants, there's some text on Mixteco. So I'm going to go to my document here for my, it's a different one. This was the different paper. That was the other one that I was working on. Here it is. So my context there, I've got that. I've got some, those are some of the pictures that I wanted to use. So you see how important this kind of document that has all of your details is, right? You sort of can understand that you really want to have your text written. You don't really want to, here we go, participants. You don't really want to copy. You don't really want to have to write this. Can I tell you the truth? I did not even try to just write. I think at the very beginning, I wrote and then I lost stuff because I didn't save it. Like something, which reminds me, there is a save icon. So I'm just going to save what I'm doing right now. I haven't been burned by iPresentations yet, but you and I both know, all of you know, the more you play around with these things, you can easily, the internet, you know, it's got a personality. So I would suggest save, you know, write your text, put in your photo and save as often as you can. Okay, I think now's probably a good time to take other questions as you can see the building going.
So, Lori, a few people have asked if it's possible to edit their title, information, author, and abstract. They seem to be having trouble doing that.
Yeah, you cannot, and maybe Felice and Robert will explain why, because I wanted to do that too. People, I feel you. You cannot alter your title, and you cannot alter your abstract. I tried to. These are things that are in they're preloaded actually. So I know things change over the time from the time you submit your proposal and the time you're actually presenting your paper. You can't change those. You can of course change your the author order, which I've also had to do, and you can change everything else, but the title and your abstract are stuck. Did you want to talk about that at all, Felice or Robert?
Yeah, the reason is you can change it by putting something in a first slide. The reason is that to have something that links conceptually, so we're not confusing attendees or others in the future, that there's one authentic title and one agreed upon order of authorship, and that we don't have something that's different in the online paper repository. With the same thing would go for your PowerPoint. But if you choose to make an amendment, just take your first slide and say, if I were to retitle this paper today, I would call it X, just as you might have said orally, and then put that in. And it is really to authenticate that there's one paper and that's the paper given at that time with that title. There are places for notes in the bottom screen that where you can where you add references. You could pick another abstract in there and say this would be my revised abstract. But we hope, because remember the final uploading was last Thursday, the 25th, that would be the one that's the closest to your presentation version. And the additional information can be entered, but we really needed to be sure that everything links on your live presentation with what might be in the online paper repository in the gallery. So I would suggest that you just use slide 1 or your last slide, saying, that in light of the revisions to this work, when we prepare it for publication, it will probably be altered to read as follows, however you want to use the information.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Felice. So now we understand it's about consistency and about, I like that authentication, because obviously, you know, we want to make sure that there's, but I want you to all know that I did want to change my title after I saw it again. Let's look at, so we've gone through all of these steps. I think it's really a good idea for us now to take a look at some of these other buttons on the side, because there are some really interesting things that can make the presentation even more dynamic that I would like to share with you. And I did say earlier to become familiar with all of these things. We're going to go with design last, but there's an option to add an overall overarching narration for your paper if you're not available, if you're not there to do it. And that is actually pretty easy to do. I may have already added narration. Yes, I did. But the way that you would do that.
Welcome to Social Justice and Equity as
so you can do that. I did an 8-minute summary.
Hi. Welcome to Social Justice and
And
Equity
there she goes.
as research education. Applied critical leadership in the Mixteco.
And so in order for somebody to hear that, they would have to press the button to hear it, to enable it. But I mean, in terms of accessibility, you know, I say is get as many ways, get the information to the people in as many ways as possible. And so narration is another way to do it. But you can also have narration within the different panels here. You can put a little bit of narration in these other areas. So you can put narration in 2 places, overarching for the whole, or using this button, or inside your actual presentation by using these other smaller, I have an audio for methods here that I wanted to add. So there's that. There's also the author information, which is really cool. In this part, you can actually add your information, like your bio, your mini bio. So I said that when you were working on your leading document here, that you wanted to make sure you had information about your bio as well. So you can just go to your bio. Excuse me, I go zooming through. I think my bio is on here. And if not, it's on the other one. No, I must have put it on the other doc. Excuse me. My bio's down here. You will know your documents well as well. And you just take a little slice off of there. Hello, bio, copy, and there's author information. And maybe I want to also add that other picture that I put in there from my gallery. Do something different. Just pick a picture. Boom. Okay. Just like that. So now when somebody wants to know more about you, they can get more information. Again, the abstract is there. If there are any disclosures, like research is funded, this research was funded by, and I'm gonna add to this later, but MECOP and the University of Auckland. So I'm not, you know, we're gonna refer to some about those things. So whatever it is, whatever other disclosures, maybe you want to give thanks. Maybe you want to, I don't know, maybe there's an embargo on the research. That's probably a good place. References, you can cut them, paste them off of that master doc, and you can keep, again, building all of those things. We've already gone over the image gallery support. There is all kinds of awesome support that you can gather. There's a quick guide, there's a FAQ, there are cases if you want to look at other designs, and there are even tutorials in this area. So again, cases takes you right back to all of these different presentations that you can access as examples for your poster session. Okay, so let's get back to where we were. You can print the presentation, what that looks like. Kind of turns into a PDF usually. There it is. So that's cool. Almost looks like that working document that we started with, doesn't it? Mhm. And you can share your presentation. There's a link. You can, I like this one because I'm working on a paper with one of my colleagues and she got the invite, but I didn't, to work on the poster. Well, she doesn't like to, let me see, I shouldn't say that. She doesn't know how to do the poster yet. So she sent me a manage co-authors. She invited me and now I can work on that poster. All right. So you can manage your co-authors too. This one doesn't have one, the one I'm working on. So you can invite somebody, a co-author, to work on the poster with you. You can, I didn't play with this, so I'm not going to speak on it, but there are other, I can't wait to see this. Maybe this means time. Yeah, you can find out who's looked at it. This is great. You can find out, do you want to get iPresentation button to displayed? I don't know this. I haven't played with that one either, but I would suggest that you do for your settings. That's also nice to know. There's a preview, there's a save, and there's a post at the very, very end. I wouldn't press post until you're done with your everything that you want to do for your iPoster. But the last thing I wanted to share with you is design. You can change the background of your color. Like I didn't choose this color. It was kind of a default for my design. I like greens and I like blues. That one's too bright. I don't like that one. Maybe something like that. It's still a little green. So you can change all of that up in here. You know, I'm very partial to turquoise. I also like orange. That's a little bit obnoxious though for me. It's not, you just kind of go with what you want, go with what you would like. You can also change the font. So maybe you don't like this font. So you can change the font to Verdana. Maybe you want Times New Roman. Okay. You can change the font and the subtitles and all of it. You can change colors. There are lots of different things that you can do in terms of the design. I think they're very personal. I think they are very dependent on what you enjoy and what your tastes are. And I think that that's the artistic aspect of all of this. I did want to go back to this PowerPoint business because the PowerPoint, I was building my PowerPoint here, and I just wanted to show you how you upload your image from the gallery to build your PowerPoint. I think I was on slide number like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have to count. You have to do a little bit of thinking, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I was on slide 7, so I want to add slide 7. That kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then I know what my slide I was on. So that was slide 7, and now I'm going to add slide 8. See how it's thinking? Don't get scared when you're working on this. The iPresentation really likes to think, and sometimes it pauses. And so you just kind of let it think, let it pause, let it do its thing, and then wait to see what it's going to do. So here's my PowerPoint. Did it catch it? Yep, it's catching all of them. It's doing exactly what I want it to do. Thank goodness. So that's pretty much all of it. As much as I have explored it and played with it, if there is anything in particular, I would like to open up the floor now.
Hi, Lori. A few people have asked whether
Being available is super important for something like this. So,
Lori, a few people have asked whether there's a limit on the number of PowerPoint slides that can be uploaded.
you know, it says 10. It actually says 10, but if I go to my original that I shared with you all, let's see, this one, I don't know if it's going to let me go back or not. I know there are more than 10 slides. So
You can't, yeah, Lori, actually you can upload more than 10.
Mm-hmm.
And a question came up, if you could click on your PowerPoint slides and have that window expand out. So,
The one that I'm building now?
the one in the building or the one that you created before?
Okay, well, I'm here. So
Okay.
if it's a building question, I should go to the building one, but yes.
So you can see the arrows, the backwards arrow and the forward arrow, and the sort of the 2 lines that go up and down in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on the two lines going up and down in the middle, that will actually pause the rotation of the slides.
Correct.
And then you can resume by clicking the forward or backwards arrow, and that
Correct.
will continue. I know there was a question in the box about that, so figured this is a good place to talk about that.
Absolutely. Yes.
There was another PowerPoint question. The person wanted to know that if their original PowerPoint slide had a video clip embedded, would that clip be able to be played during the iPresentation?
No, it would not. Not as it's going in the PowerPoint box. I would suggest, because remember, your PowerPoint, it comes from a JPEG, which is a photo, or a PNG, which is a photo. So it's not alive. The PowerPoint is not alive in of itself. That sounds like a person that wants to do at least 2 panels, or at least one presentation that's going to have a rotation, and then another box where you can actually have video. All of these other boxes can have video, because when I go into any of these boxes, there's a place to add a video. Okay. But in the PowerPoint presentation of it in of itself, you cannot have a video embedded in your PowerPoint if it's going automatically like that. Does that answer that question?
Yes, it does. A couple people have also asked how they would be able to work with co-authors on an iPresentation.
Okay, I'll answer that question again. And that's a really, I'm sorry, this orange is just doing it to me. I'm having a sensory moment. Okay, much better. As you recall, you can go right into your My Settings. For those of you that asked the question about co-authors, you can hit Manage Co-authors, and then you can invite. Now it says invite co-authors, and that's a plural. So I'm guessing, I only did this one time for the other one that I'm doing with my other colleague, but you can put in their name, their last name, their email, whatever message, send an invite, and they will get an email from iPresentations that will give them access to the presentation. And then what's going to happen is, see these arrows that show my 2 presentations that I'm working on? The drop down is going to include all of the posters that co-authors are working on. And I will tell you a little secret, full disclosure, I'm doing a symposium, and I have this really interesting feeling that all of my co-authors are going to make me their co-author, so I can help them pop up their PowerPoints or pop up their whatever elements they want. I'm going to help them do that because, you know, I'm the chair. Does that answer that question?
So any number of you can share, but only one can, as you might imagine, only one can make the changes at the same, in sequence. So you can't be co-creating.
Co-creating.
Although you can be on we could be, let's say Laurie and I are collaborating on a presentation. We could both be co-authors, but we could on Zoom, she could be making the changes and others of you observe it. I would try to encourage, if you haven't started your PowerPoint yet, there's no real benefit to it if you're drawn to this. This gives you everything else that you need and more, and sort of skips that step along the way. And when you're presenting at your live session time, you will do what Laurie just showed, that it will be a tab on your top toolbar, which has your presentation, and no different from putting a PowerPoint on your desktop. You just pull it from the top tab because you've opened it in advance of your presentation.
And I want to go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you certainly can do it, but there's no real reason to make that step along the way unless you've already stepped and have it more or less done, because you can as easily present through this mode. Laurie also illustrated, I think, what is the genre of using a lot of narrative text. If you are working in the genre where you might have more pictures, graphs, and in PowerPoint you might have had more, bullets or kind of facts at a glance, you don't have to use the narrative, but the basic point, or it's not even a preferential that you do it. The basic point is that you though have that essentially sheet in terms of what you want to lift and bring in, whatever the words are. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Lori.
So for me, the PowerPoint has changed its function. So for me now, instead of being the center, the PowerPoint is just kind of like an elaboration. So for the paper that I'm doing, the Beyond Black and White paper that I'm doing for the Committee on Scholars of Color, I'm actually only using the PowerPoint for my land acknowledgement and for my greeting, for some terminology, and for some research samples. Like the meat of my presentation is actually going to be something else, right? Because I want to do a land acknowledgement and a greeting, but I don't necessarily want to have one of those panels be that. So I figured a really good way for me to manage that was to let my PowerPoint presentation be oh, that's right. I haven't started it. I didn't build it yet. The PowerPoint presentation is going to be those elements that I wanted in my, that I wanted to hit, right? I really love those elements of my talk, but I don't want them to take up a whole panel. Here it is. There's my PowerPoint that I'm creating for that talk. But I don't want the talk to be the PowerPoint. I want to do my other really, it allows you to communicate maybe in a way that's a little bit more holistic than maybe you would if you were just trapped in a PowerPoint or just trapped in the presentation panels. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I will say my experience in seeing your work is you can go to the last panel and it sort of gives you facts at a glance through your PowerPoint. So it does. It essentially, if you use that modality additionally, it expands your bandwidth because
Yeah,
you're just using only one
right.
piece of 9. And
Exactly. Exactly. I'm looking for my one and I can't find, oh, there it is. That's not easy to get lost. There's a lot of cookie crumbs along the way. Just remember when you're choosing your iPoster or your template that however many papers you have, that's how many tabs that you have that you can toggle back and forth and in between. So again, here's back to the one that I'm actively building right now. But you know what? Do you see this color, how it went back to the orange? And you know why? Because I didn't save it. So now I'm going to model saving because saving can be a little stress inducing. I'm not trying to freak anybody out. I'm just saying when you save it, sometimes it takes a moment. That only took a second, but sometimes it takes a moment. I just want to let you know, sometimes iPresentations takes a moment. Just take a breath, get a glass of water, go to the bathroom. And when you come back, it'll be back. That's a big bit of advice that I have for you about working with this particular modality. Other questions?
A couple people have asked if you could demonstrate how to add video.
Yeah, how to add video? Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I can. Absolutely. Let me go to, I'm trying to work smart with this as well. Okay, this is a paper where I want to add a video. I have an Accesso video that I want to add. So I'm going to pull this video from a YouTube. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to go into YouTube. Just have to move this so I can see it. So I'm just looking up YouTube, Mixteco, because I don't have the URL handy. Proyecto Acceso. Let's see. Historia de mi COP. Radio Indígena. I'm just going to use this as an example. Mixteco Indígena Community Organizing Project. Okay, guys, we don't want to play the video. We just want to, I want that URL. There it is. So I'm going to copy this URL. Boop. And I'm going to go to my poster that I'm building. Pardon me, I have like too many tabs open for my own comfort level. There it is. Accesso video. I'm going to add that video Sorry, I want it where I want it to be. There we go. Accessible video. Away. URL. Okay. There it is. It's so easy, but don't do it if it's not a YouTube. I hope that you all are appreciating my humor, but trust me, I've been there. You need the URL. URLs are nicely, they're there in YouTube. So if you have a video, like what we did is we put all of our videos onto our YouTube channel for the nonprofit that I work for. I don't think it's very hard. This is one of those things you got to be like, you know, just Google it and figure out how you get URL for your video. And that's how you do it. And they play really nicely when they're there too. I think you saw from the other one. I don't know why I'm having a hard time. Maybe because I haven't saved it. I'm not 100% sure. I would like to demo this for you. Let me see if I can by saving, because I tried something else and then I tried to demo it and it didn't play for you. Let's see if this one will play. Will you play for us? Why aren't you playing? I wish I had somebody from iPresentations with me right now to tell you why this isn't playing, but it should.
It may not until you, Robert, does it play before you publish?
Mine did.
Okay, yeah, it should.
It really should.
It should.
Yeah. How's your sound? Is your sound up? I hate to say.
Yeah, it's not playing.
activating.
But when it does play, and it will play, I promise. I don't know why it's not doing it at this very moment on demand. My audio link didn't play for you either, but an audio link that I put in yesterday played for you. So you can see that the YouTube is there. The video is there. It absolutely is. And,
So Lori, a few people are asking for clarification. It's correct that videos can only be added through a URL, correct?
Yes. Only through a URL. And you'll know that the video is there as mine, as it indicated with the picture there. And again, when it does play, when the videos do play, I want to go back and show you how beautiful they are in this one. You know, they're awesome. It's amazing. Maybe it had to do with that red, color red, I don't know. But yeah,
Kia normal to viende cuenta shami coronavirus yo. Soy yo ni akase ko ai. Yo tashi.
And that maybe it's because it's published. I don't know exactly the details as to why it's not showing for the one that I just embedded. Like if I were building a poster, and I will be building these posters, I will have to troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. Maybe I can find something in my support about video. You know, I just haven't, I'm not doing that at this moment. Go ahead.
Lori, you can publish this. And then if you find that you'd like to make changes, you just come back to it. So if you wanted to publish that now, you can come back and make changes to it.
After I post it?
After you post it.
Okay, shall we try that?
Yep.
Everyone? Okay, I'm just gonna set no changes. I'll post it. Oh, congratulations. I like this. This is nice feedback. Your presentation has now been posted and will be displayed. You can keep working with your presentation. Any changes you make will be updated directly. You don't need to post your presentation again. Okay, everybody. So you see now, I mean, this is a good message for us to all see together. Now, I feel like it still doesn't look active, even though I know this is okay. I did a media embed, not 100% sure. Maybe if I leave and come back. This is what I have had to do. I find when working with this, with iPresentations, sometimes you just kind of have to play. Maybe this will work this time. Yep, look, it's red. Did you all see? You have to play with this. You really have to play with it. And you have to go back and forth, and you honestly, it's not that difficult, but you definitely need to understand that there is a personality going on with iPresentation. And, you know, if you're not afraid of technology and you're willing to play with it and be, you know, practice a little courageousness and a little innovation, you know, it goes a long way. That's what I have found anyway. Is everybody, you saw how easy that was? Super easy. I wonder if the voice, I had added a little bit of, I thought I added a little bit of narration over here. It's the same idea earlier. And it's the same thing. If you add something and then you play it and it doesn't materialize as you feel that it should, my suggestion is that you leave, come back, let it reload, just play with it. It's gonna come. It's technology. Don't be afraid. Just keep working with it. You know, I know I have theoretical framing. That in, I'm choosing this audio just so that you can get another example of the way that we can make this work. Theoretical framing for this project expands applied critical leadership to these contexts. So when a person is visiting your poster, they can not only see the images, but they can hear your voice, they can see some video, they can see some pictures, they can get the full flavor of your research in ways really that a PowerPoint can't by itself. I think that's why I personally really like the way the iPresentation is evolving for me. When I was invited to do this presentation, at first I was hesitant because I could only think of all of the frustrations that I had initially, but then I realized, you know, this is actually cathartic and therapeutic for me to share that it really can be done. You just kind of have to work with it. I gave you all the tools and all of the steps that I wish that I would have had just peer to peer, so that hopefully I can make it more accessible to you. Are there other questions?
Yeah, Lori, someone is wondering if they would be able to, are they able to move the boxes around within a template or resize them?
No, you can't. I'll go back to, you can't do that. I'm going to go back to this one, the one that I was building from the beginning. These are the options. There are 3, 6, 9 different options that you can see here. These are the template options. Again, I think what I would like to share with you about the template options is that the slideshow function is only available with the 6 content box, the 7 content box, or the 1 content box. And Robert, I think you remember we were doing the co-decolonizing professional development, and I was so frustrated because the PowerPoint boxes weren't changing, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Do you remember that, Robert?
Yes, I do.
It was because I wasn't using a template that had a slideshow function.
Right.
So there's nothing we were going to be able to do to make that work. So there are some limitations. That is one of the limitations. Other questions? I know we're running out of time. I'm very conscious of that. Just a few minutes left. What would you like to do with those, Felice and Robert?
Well, we can take up any central questions that either Nathan or Tony see. And if not, I think there's some things that we want to get some clarity posted. For example, when you're, I think the most obvious is the when you're connecting to external video, how that activates smoothly. All of the internal audio that you do, you are yourself uploading, which can be as simple as doing it from your own phone and uploading it. And so that is within that's within the website platform itself. But are there other core issues that we should discuss? We will go through the Q&A and try to, collectively be sure we post answers to your questions. And this demonstration will be available on our website tomorrow. Tony, Nathan, are you seeing anything central that we should take up?
There were a few people asking exactly how they would share the iPresentation during their live session?
Yeah. So you bring it up as if you're opening a website tab beforehand, just as you would, let's say, with a PowerPoint. You would take it from, from My Docs and put it on your desktop. And then you share your screen. When you share your screen, you open that tab and it shows in full spectrum. And then you go through those parts that you want to present. So in that sense, it's there is, I think, Laurie emphasized a very important point, that the iPresentation has this flexibility with the slider to add things that you might not otherwise even want to feature on a PowerPoint. And it kind of gives you almost like a newsreel, whether it's a presentation or a PowerPoint presentation. So it gives you more than this set of offerings. I will say that this set of offerings was initially 6 and that we added 3 more going into ARA's needs from some of the other associations that have used kind of a more modest set of templates. And I anticipate that by 2022, we'll have more sliders on more things and additional functionalities as we ourselves have much more experience. We ourselves, meaning the research community, has much more experience in using these. The 9 really have quite a bit of flexibility. Even if you choose to do the 6th version with a slider, that doesn't mean that you have to have narrative or pictures on all 6. You can spread your content so that you are at your slider when you want to have that slider.
Yeah, I think it's important just to decide what are the core elements of the research that you would like to share beyond the regular intro, lit review, methodology. You know what I mean? Like those are like the bare bones, basically. Now, what else do you want to share to someone to make your research become more interactive, become more alive, so people can become engaged with your research? So for me, I find that very attractive because we have been working in these little boxes for so many years, some of us for decades, and now we've got that, yes, and so now we have more that we can add to that sharing of the research.
And as a collaborative community, we all know that when you go to a session and someone's trying to essentially read their paper, well, you could have read the paper in some other way.
Right.
And so this provides, this has fundamentally an emphasis on kind of a collective collaborative space. That's why I was calling it the studio, and only learned recently that it was not actually called the studio, but you're going into a studio and you're doing your own creative way of how you would want to present your work, knowing there's an underlying paper. And that's why it actually has a unique citation as a presentation in the gallery that you can use when you're presenting live through shared screen.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me share this with you all, and just be encouraged, be patient, enjoy the process, and know that it's not done. It's a creative process, so you can keep adding, you can keep refining, you can it's kind of alive. It's you write a paper and you publish it, and it's dead. But this particular iPresentation format, it's living, it's alive, and that's kind of how I think I would want to close my presentation, is by letting you know that it's a live piece of yourself, your research, and it's accessible in ways that we haven't had in the past. So thanks again, Felice, for letting me share this with all of you.
This has been really our pleasure to really work with you, both in our professional development courses and through iPresentation, and sense the kind of creativity that you're not only bringing to your own scholarship and teaching and social justice work, but sharing it in a way that I think just reflects the spirit of what our field is all about, and ARA's commitment to it. So thank you all for coming. Awesome. And for letting us know who you are and where you are, and we value you being a part of us today. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.